Yeah, we back. Yeah, we back. Now, today's going to be a recap video. As you already know, in the past couple weeks, I dropped an excellent series, some of my best work. We did an audiobook series on a book that I was reading, the biography of King Henri Christophe, one of the greatest black men to ever walk the face of the earth. And in that series, we had read a book entitled Black Crown by Paul Clammer. Shout out to Paul Clammer, man. Excellent book, man. I would give it out of 5 stars. I would say, 4 out of 5 stars. I would say the book is about 96% accurate. I don't got no complaints. I'm happy that I was able to read it right along with y'all. Y'all got my live reactions as I was reading it, right? So if you haven't read it already, go to my playlist section, go to my homepage. Knock yourself out, man. 12-part series, several hours worth of content. Y'all got my live reaction and my live analysis. Now, when this video is kind of going to be like a recap, I'm going to be going over the most epic moments from the book, from the series, my favorite moments, right? And like I said in my community tab, take a look up on the screen. Every black man in the world should be tuned into my latest series, The Biography of King Henri Christophe. Studying the life of figures like Christophe is crucial for black men. His journey from being born into slavery to becoming a world-famous leader in the early 19th century, reaching the highest levels of power during a hostile era for black men, is an example of resilience, leadership, intelligence, and self-determination that we should all study. Now, this is off topic, but the month of August in general is a very important month for black men in terms of, ancestrally, culturally. The month of August, that was when the Nat Turner Rebellion, the Nat Turner Uprising was launched. The month of August, that was when the Haitian Revolution was launched. The month of August, that was when Marcus Garvey was born. The month of August, that was when the first Marcus Garvey convention in New York was held, I believe in 1920. I don't know what it is about the month of August, but I don't know, man. The black man just be rising up in the month of August, man. So yeah. So I dropped this, this series, fitting right on time in the month of August. So let's discuss some of my favorite moments from the book, man. Let's recap the book, man. For those of y'all that watched it, you already know, man. Epic series. Some of my best work, probably my best series I ever dropped. Period. If you haven't watched it yet, go to my playlist section. Knock yourself out, man. Stop playing games, man. Stop playing games. Now, we already know early on in Christophe's life, I believe in his early teenage years, he was enlisted in the French army during the days of the American Revolution, when the American colonists were fighting for their independence. So yes, Christophe was active in 2 revolutions during his lifetime, but I don't even count that as the first legendary moment. To me, the first legendary moment was, I believe, in the mid 1790s, right? Now, by this time, the revolution already began. Toussaint Louverture, he's rising to power, right? And it was during the election season between the Abolitionist Party and the pro-slavery party in the colony, right? And Toussaint Louverture, obviously, he was lending his support to the Abolitionist Party. And Christophe also lent his support also. And they said when Christophe showed up to the elections, with so many soldiers and so that he outnumbered the citizens that had the right to vote. Listen, y'all remember that? I believe that was in part 2 or part 3. That was part 3. Right? They said Christophe showed up to the elections with so many soldiers and so that he outnumbered the citizens who had a right to vote. Now, needless to say, the Abolitionist Party secured the elections. But just the imagery of it, right? Christophe showing up, to the elections with the squadron, showing up deep, hundreds of soldiers, just the imagery of it, man. And I believe around that time, he was only 28 years old at the time, 28 years old, something like that. Probably even younger than that, probably 27 years old. Yeah, that story was fire. For those of y'all that listen to the series, you remember that part. Yeah, that was epic. That was legendary. The second legendary moment in the book would probably be in the late 1790s. During the military campaigns against the British, Christophe managed to convince 300 black soldiers that were serving under the British to abandon their posts and switch their allegiance to his side, right? Now, to me, that was an excellent example of black men recognizing that we share common interests despite our diverse origins, right? Despite, we might not come from the same place, we might not even speak the same language, but in that moment, it showed me that the ancestors understood that we have common interests and common enemies. And it's more intelligent for us to be standing together instead of fighting each other. So I like that story, right? When 300 black men that were serving under the British, probably, enslaved black men probably or whatever, right? They ended up abandoning their posts. They defected over to Christophe's side, right? They defected over to the Haitian revolutionaries, man. 300 black men joined Christophe's ranks. I love that story. That was an epic story. That was an epic part of the book. The third legendary story in the book, right, was, I believe it was in the year 1798, when a white British soldier by the name of Marcus Ransford was masquerading as an American in the capital of the colony, and he was captured as a spy. And Christophe was summoned to oversee his trial, right? And then Christophe ended up sentencing him to death, but his verdict was reduced to a simple deportation when it was sent to Toussaint for his approval. And for those of y'all that listen to the series, you remember how they described the event, how they described the scene. It was very epic. It was very epic, man. Go listen to the series, man. Very good book. Very good book, man. Very good book. Now, the next legendary moment I would say is in 1799, Christophe hijacked 3 British ships on 3 different occasions that were docked in Port-au-Prince. And he hijacked those ships to transport supplies to his men. And as if that wasn't epic enough, they said in one instance, when the captain of the ship tried to resist, right, his ship being taken, they said Christophe and his men beat his ass. They said the British captain got his ass beat. Now, to me, I love that story. To me, that's one of the most epic stories in the entire book, man. They said Christophe on 3 different occasions hijacked 3 different British ships to transport supplies to his men in different parts of the island. Man, listen, that was an epic story, man. That was funny as hell too, man. British captain got his ass beat. Let's continue. So the next legendary story, I would say, the next epic story in the book, I would probably say would be during the 1802 French invasion, right? When Napoleon Bonaparte sent the largest military expedition in history during that time. And then Christophe ended up burning the entire capital city to the ground, including his own house, right? And during that time, they said Christophe had one of the most beautiful townhouses in the center of the city. But when the French invaded, man, he burned the whole capital city to the ground, and he blew up his own house, man. He burned his own house down, man. You know, real revolutionary, man. Blew up his own house. What black man you know in the modern day gonna blow up his own mansion? What black man you know in the modern day gonna blow up his own house, bro? Epic story, man. I'm telling you, this series was crazy. Epic story. But everybody know that about Christophe already. I discussed that so many times on my channel. When the French invaded, Christophe burned the capital city to the ground, man. That's like a legendary tale when it comes to the story of Christophe. Now, let's continue. The next legendary story in the book would be his first military engagement between his troops and the French troops, right? They said Christophe's horse was shot from under him and he was forced to jump into the ocean and swim away to safety, right? Just the imagery of it was comedy to me. I'm sorry, man. Just imagining Christophe getting shot from off his horse and then having to jump into the ocean to safety. I'm sorry, man. Just the imagery of it was comedy. I'm sure during that time Christophe was stressed out, but just the imagery of it was funny to me, man. They had Christophe in the ocean swimming. They had my man swimming to safety. That's crazy, man. The next legendary story in the book would be after independence was secured, right? At this point, the war is over. The war is already won, right? Dessalines, Christophe, all the guys, they're victorious. And in the book, they spoke about how, I believe a month after independence, there was like this big independence celebration banquet that was organized by Christophe and Dessalines' wife, Madame Dessalines, right? They threw a big banquet and they described Christophe's outfit, you know, for the event. Now, I got to run that back. I got to play that footage back, man, so you can see how fresh, you know, the ancestors was getting fresh. You know, listen, the ancestors was getting fresh. Run the footage. I'll be right back. That though the city's buildings still show the scars of war, its markets were thriving with every kind of fresh produce on offer. These bounties were particularly on display in mid-February when Christophe and Madame Dessalines hosted a banquet at the governor's house. Attendees were dazzled by the enormous marquee in the gardens, decorated with flowers, mirrors, chandeliers, and marble. A table set for 250 guests, grown with beef, turkeys, ducks, chickens, wild fowl, turtle, oysters, along with fruit, jellies, and cake, and endless bottles of claret, Madeira, and champagne. The banquet was a public coming out for the new regime. According to Ragged, Christophe dressed for the occasion in a scarlet coat, embroidered with gold lace, for the cloth was scarcely visible, with 2 golden epaulets, a large military hat with gold lace border, boots with gold borders and tassels, an embroidered vest, and pantaloons of yellow nankeen, beautifully worked in front. His officers were all similarly attired. The dresses of his wife and the other female dignitaries were modest by comparison, but set off by their hair that was decorated with artificial flowers, beads, and combs. Their jewelry drew plenty of admirers, not least Madame Dessalines' gold watch set with diamonds and mounted on a ring. All right, we back. Now listen, man, big up to Christophe, man. Big up to the ancestors, man. The ancestors was fresh to death, man. Large military hat with gold lace border, with the matching boots with the gold borders. Ooh! Christophe was going crazy on them boys, man. Shout out to Christophe, man. Just the imagery of it, man. I wish I could have been there, man. Christophe was killing y'all with the fit, man. Christophe was killing y'all with the fit. Now, the next legendary story in the book was the deep dive into the construction behind the Citadel and the Royal Palace, right? The Citadel, the largest, most magnificent military fortress in the entire Western Hemisphere, right? And the Royal Palace during this time, during the height of its power, the most magnificent building in the entire Western Hemisphere, the most magnificent presidential palace in the entire Western Hemisphere, right? When Christophe was alive, man, Christophe was doing it big, man. In the book, in the series, they did a deep dive into the construction behind the Citadel and the palace, the labor behind it, who was behind it, how it was built, things like that. Go check it out, man. Go check it out. It went into great detail, man. You know, like I said, some of the most epic buildings ever built in the Western Hemisphere, right? The Citadel by itself, the largest, most complex military structure in the Western Hemisphere, man. You know, 3,000 feet above the sea on a goddamn mountain. I don't even know how they built that joint like that, bro. Like, still standing, still to this day, over 200 years later. Done went through multiple earthquakes and still standing. The foundation still solid. Go check out the series, man, if you want a deep dive on how they built these magnificent constructions. You know, how they built these magnificent edifices. The next epic story in the book was when they spoke about how, I believe it was in the year 1805, right? The year 1805. Dessalines had wrote a letter to Napoleon Bonaparte, and he had requested that Napoleon Bonaparte send his sister, Pauline Bonaparte, back to Haiti so he can impregnate her. I'm going to run that footage. I'll be right back. Dessalines wrote a letter to Napoleon Bonaparte. In an extraordinary broadside, he professed regret at the lessons taught to him by General Charles Leclerc and Rochambeau, and the fate of Toussaint meant that he could find no Haitian willing to travel to France as his ambassador, not least while Bonaparte regarded him as a rebel and a brigand rather than the leader of a free nation. He urged Bonaparte to forget his desires to conquer the island, whose shores are forever closed to you, and instead proposed a peace deal in the most provocative manner possible. Dessalines asked Bonaparte to return his sister Pauline, Leclerc's widow, to Haiti so that the two of them could marry and the Haitian people could see the widow of the vanquished in the arms of the victor, and the Corsican blood which would join with the black in their children. Dessalines was trolling. Dessalines was trolling Napoleon. Let's continue. All right, we back. Now, that was a funny story. Now, the next legendary story in the book, I would say, is when they describe the coronation of 1811, right? When Christophe was inaugurated as king officially in the year 1811. They described in great detail the procession, the ceremony, the events, the celebrations, the reactions. It's way too long to summarize right here. Go check it out, man. I dedicated an entire episode to it. I believe that had to be, I forget which part it was. Let me go back and check. That was part 8, right? So go watch part 8 if you want to, read about the coronation, learn about the coronation when Christophe was inaugurated as king, the lavish celebration, man. Very epic celebrations. One of the largest celebrations ever in the history of the country. Now, the next legendary story would be how they described how Christophe built up his military into one of the most respected militaries in the region, right? Infantry, cavalry with the Navy, right? They said Christophe actually had a fleet of warships, I believe about 10 warships. They described how exactly he got it done. There was one epic story of how he ended up getting a warship made in Baltimore, and then how we got it transported to Haiti, even though the United States currently had his government under a blockade. I gotta run that footage. Hold up, I gotta run that footage. Christophe urged merchants to avoid the disorder of Port-au-Prince and to sail for the protected harbors of the north instead. Still, Bunel was nervous about leaving the port without tangling with the authorities. Christophe told him to sail first for Puerto Rico rather than directly to Haiti, and to try as far as you can to avoid meeting any vessel whatsoever. Bunel successfully delivered the ship in early 1810. Damn, in 1810, Christophe got a 38-gun Corvette. I don't even know what that is, bro, but apparently that joint got 38 guns on it. Let's continue. Christophe would have regarded the delivery as a particularly sweet win over President Jefferson's blockade. The white man trying to stop the black man shine, but we still stacking up them warships, baby. Damn near 10 warships in the fleet, and we blockaded, and we got the embargo, but we still bringing in them ships. Let's continue. All right, we back. Now, Christophe was not acquiring those warships for decoration or for symbolism. He was actually putting them to use, and I discussed this on my channel before, but they also talked about it in the book as well, right? They actually spoke about how on multiple occasions, Christophe deployed his navy to intercept European slave ships, right? So whenever there would be a European slave ship spotted, you know, Christophe would deploy the navy to rescue our family off them slave ships, right? To rescue our brothers and our sisters off them slave ships. You know what I mean? They discussed that as well, right? So you already know I gotta run that footage, man. I'll be right back. Let's continue. When the Northern Navy began its blockade against Petron Southern Republic, it captured 3 slave ships bound for Havana in a single year, with 2 of them carrying 440 and 205 African prisoners. Haitian authorities were proud of their sailors' actions in freeing the unfortunate brothers, victims of the greed and odious traffic in human flesh. In January 1811, Christophe visited the town of Verret, where he was treated to a dance performance by a number of Hausa children who had recently been liberated from a Portuguese ship off Haitian waters. All right, we back. Now, another legendary story in the book was one that I discussed on my channel multiple times, was back in 1814 when the French government tried to send some diplomatic envoys, some ambassadors, some spies to the country to negotiate with Christophe in order to bring the former colony back under the submission of France. Christophe actually arrested the diplomatic envoy, arrested him, imprisoned him inside the Citadel, where he died. Right? They describe in great detail that whole fiasco. So go check out that book. I believe that happened in part, I forget which part 9 or 10, part 8, 9 or 10, one of those. Yeah. Another legendary story in the book was how they described in great detail the level of wealth and the level of power that Christophe obtained and maintained during the early 1800s, right? You got to understand the geopolitical context in which he was living makes everything that he was doing that much more spectacular, that much more marvelous, right? They describe in great detail the lavish spending that Christophe was doing in order to project his power to the world, right? In an effort to legitimize himself as a true leader, a true sovereign, right? Christophe invested in making sure that his kingdom was able to measure up against any kingdom around the planet, right? So I'm gonna run that footage. I'll be right back. The second half of the year saw a succession of articles in British newspapers commenting on the luxury goods that Christophe was buying in London, wherever possible commissioned from the same craftsmen patronized by the Prince Regent. His jewelers created a diamond-hilted sword for Christophe, along with epaulets studded with precious stones, both of which were put on display to an awed public. A complete bone china dinner service was ordered from the Spode Pottery Works in Staffordshire. At the center of each gilt-rimmed plate, a crowned phoenix rose from flames set against a deep blue shield surmounted by the royal crown. Gold and silver plate was ordered from Milroy Sadler of Lombard Street, including a gilt bronze ice pail bearing the royal arms. Just as Vasti's books aimed to demonstrate that Haiti was a true embodiment of Enlightenment values, Christophe's high spending was designed to show that his kingdom's splendor could match anything in Europe. All right, we back. But that wasn't nothing yet. It gets even greater. Run the footage, I'll be right back. In October 1815, the Morning Chronicle dedicated nearly half a column to describe in great detail the very superb dresses for the Queen and Princesses of Haiti have just been finished by one of our fashionable dressmakers. White satin was chosen for Queen Maya Louise, embroidered with sunflowers and fringed with gold, and a similarly decorated train that looped up to form a drapery with gold tassels. The outfit was topped off with a rich plume of white feathers and combs. The gown for the princesses was lilac satin with a gold and silver fringe, silver tissue sleeves, and a train with large red roses. Her younger sister Athénaïe's dress was in a pink cordon satin, decorated with silver roses and lilies of the valley. The price tag was not mentioned, but another bill for the royal dresses came to £3,700 sterling. Of all the items bought for Christophe, none was more splendid than the series of state carriages put on display to the London public to the great acclaim in November by the coachmakers Crowther and Tapp of Charles Street. The main 8-horse carriage had a sky blue body with an entirely Nouvelle shape, designed to give extra shade from the Caribbean sun. Its panels were painted with the King's coat of arms, encircled with an elegant border of flowers and images of military and naval trophies. Rich gilt moldings framed the whole of the bodywork, and the cornices of the roof were surmounted with golden phoenixes with a crown at the center. The interior was lined in velvet embroidered with the emblem of the Order of St. Henri and fringed with gold drapery. No one who saw it could fail to be awed by its magnificence. Only mildly less extravagant was the Prince Royal's emerald green cabriolet with his emblazoned arms, with chased silver fixings and lined with yellow and green Morocco leather. The coaches for the princesses had matching lilac panels with the initials entwined in silver. In total, 23 carriages were built by Crowther and Tapp for the royal court, plus harnesses for 119 horses in crimson saddles with gold lace and silver-clawed tiger skin saddle cloths. When the carriages were due to be shipped to Haiti, the Morning Chronicle sighed to its readers. It is to be lamented that more time is not allowed the public to witness one of the grandest specimens of art and elegance ever combined in one piece of work of the kind that has been sent from the country. All right, we back. But that still ain't nothing yet, right? Because now, in another part of the book, they go into detail about a celebration that took place in 1815. I believe it was in celebration of the Queen. I believe it was the Queen's birthday, right? Christophe's wife's birthday. And this right here was the second largest celebration that ever took place in the country, right? The biggest celebration that ever took place was Christophe's coronation. But this right here, the Queen's celebration in 1815, this right here is right up there with it. So they describe the events, the procession, the state carriages. Man, run the footage. I'll be right back. A military escort of artillery, cavalry, and infantry preceded the king's carriage, its sky blue body matching the uniforms of the royal household dragoons. It was followed by the queen's coach, also drawn by 8 horses, as were the separate coaches for the Prince Royal and the princesses. Behind them were coaches for 6 and 4 horses apiece, each carrying a female member of court. Princess Jean, the queen's lady-in-waiting, the princess's governesses, the Countess of Wanament and Rouge, the princesses of Limbe, and the wives of the most prominent members of the court, including Baron de Vasti and Baron Dupuis. Bringing up the train, an infinite number of people of all ranks and sexes followed the procession in carriages and on horseback, eager to join the festivities. On the arrival at Eau du Cap, Christophe took to horseback and led the procession beneath a garlanded Victory Arch and along Rue Espagnole, riding past the ruins of the hotel where he had toured as a boy. All right, we back. Now, another epic story in the book was how they described how within such a short time, Christophe managed to establish such a robust educational system, as well as a medical system, but they especially spoke about the educational system. So I want to run some footage on that. I'll be right back. Let's go. The first teacher, Thomas Gulliver, had arrived on the same ship that carried Saunders and Evans. A school building was provided for him in the capital, and Christophe was soon writing to Clarkson that he was eagerly awaiting the other masters and professors my friends are to send me, and I intend to station them in various cities of the kingdom and to staff the Royal College so as to extend more widely the benefits of education. At Wilberforce's recommendation, Gulliver had been sent by the British and Foreign School Society, whose members were trained in the Lacansterian method of education, whereby one master may conduct a school of 1,000 children with perfect ease. Gulliver initially had to deal with just 150 pupils, but Christophe nevertheless professed himself astonished at the effects of this new system and at the precocious intelligence which it develops in the pupils. A British visitor to the capital in 1820 visited the school there and found it as perfectly furnished with all the necessary apparatus as the best schools conducted on this system as prepared in England. He was equally impressed with the children, all of whom could read, write, and do arithmetic, with many of them able to speak English and recite poetry. The star pupil, a boy of 16 years old, impressed by translating several written passages between English and French, completing arithmetic problems, and pointing out the major European countries on a map and listing their capitals and geographic features. All right, we back. Another epic story in the book was when Christophe was embroiled in a scandal that was actually brought up in the British House of Commons, where the word got back to the British government that a foreign national, a British merchant, was arrested in Haiti and he was being held captive in the Citadel and he was being tortured because he was charged with espionage. Now, according to Christophe's letters at the time, that was actually a fact. That actually did really happen. There was a British merchant that was being tortured inside the Citadel because he was charged with espionage. But Christophe had lied to the British government and said, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. Now, I think that's it, man. I think that's all my favorite moments. That's all the most epic moments to me. If I missed any, get into the comment section. Let me know if you listen to the series, you watched the whole series. Let me know what was your favorite moments in the book, right? What was your, the moments in the book that you look back on like, damn, that was crazy, man. Get into the comment section. Let me know, man. Let me know what was your favorite part of the series, man. I gave y'all my favorite parts. I gave y'all my highlights. So get into the comment section. If you watch the series, let me know your favorite parts, man. Talk about it. Get into the comment section. Anyways, man, it's a boy Never Card to Salim back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the album, man. Support the album. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city, they loving me. Standing alone, I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They try to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I've been gained away. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drop a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. None of your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news.